Hi, my name is Laura McKay. I'm co-founder and chief operating officer at PolicyMe, and today I'm doing an interview with Smarter Loans.
Laura, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very excited to have you here talk about the insurance industry and also your company PolicyMe.
Yeah, can't wait. Thanks for having us.
Can you talk about the insurance industry in particular? And are you seeing some transformation or innovation happening in that industry? What is it, and how is it changing the way people go about getting insurance?
I would say, specifically in the life insurance industry, there has been two major areas of the process that have been undergoing change from a technology perspective. The first is definitely distribution. So even today, 90% of policies are being sold face-to-face through an individual life insurance advisor. But that channel is disappearing because today the average life insurance advisor in Canada is 62 years old, believe it or not. And the industry has been struggling for years and years and years to really attract new talent of our generation into this role. They've put their head in the sand for a little bit too long, if I had to guess, and now are really looking to potentially invest in new distribution channels that allows them to access customers and meet customers' new changing expectations, which is mostly online. So it's looking to find customers online, allow them to apply for life insurance policies online and complete the process online versus the traditional channel, which was to do this all face-to-face with a lot of paperwork, which tended to take kind of 8 to 16 weeks to complete. It was a really, really painful process for anyone applying for life insurance. So that's the first area that I think is undergoing some change today, and that's where companies like ours, PolicyMe, comes into play. The second is actually underwriting. Insurance companies are getting more and more comfortable with collecting less of that data or using a kind of publicly available data. I don't think we've come anywhere near the place that we could come when it comes to using kind of better data and artificial intelligence to underwrite a life insurance applicant, but I do see that being a big push in the future to get more accurate with our kind of approval process and really simplify it and require less of that like manual intervention to get someone approved.
Are people buying insurance online, or are people still, maybe exploring it online, but then still trying to find that person to meet with?
Customers are definitely buying life insurance online. And I would like to say that was all because we have made our website feel very trustworthy. But my guess is that a lot of other financial services verticals have kind of paved the path for us to make people comfortable with this. So people have gotten comfortable filing their taxes online, setting up investments accounts online, buying credit cards, setting up banking accounts online. Pretty much every other area of the financial services industry has moved a large part of their distribution online, or at least made it available as a channel to buy these products. And so the fact that life insurance didn't have that option was crazy to us. And it was obvious to us that customers are really looking for that. It's funny, we see some of our biggest promoters are people who have actually bought life insurance before. So perhaps they bought a policy 10 years ago and it's about to expire, and then they kind of reach out to us and say, that was incredible, it was so much easier than when I bought it before. But for young millennials who are buying it for the first time, it's just their expectation that this is how you would buy life insurance. Like they didn't realize that the only other alternative is just to do this, like meet someone at a coffee shop and fill out paperwork. Just like a very painful manual face-to-face process. So I think for sure customers are increasingly becoming more comfortable with buying this product online.
What role does your company, PolicyMe, play within the insurance space, and what pain points are you trying to solve with this business?
We are kind of a digital online life insurance advisor with the mission to make it kind of simpler and more affordable for you to get life insurance. We do that by giving you digital advice, by helping you pick the right insurance company for you, and then supporting you through this whole application process until you get approved. We are going to be your licensed life insurance advisor from the beginning of the process to the end. You're not going to be handed off to some other individual. You're going to work with us all the way through to getting approved for your policy. It wasn't necessarily intentional at all. My background is in actuarial science, so I studied actuarial science at the University of Waterloo. It's basically the mathematics behind pricing a life insurance policy. So I really intimately understand how these policies are being priced and what math goes behind them to understand what a final premium is generated for any individual. But I didn't end up pursuing actuarial science in my career. I actually went into management consulting in New York at a company called Oliver Wyman, where I did end up working closely with insurance companies on some of these big high-level strategy projects. And it was a great learning opportunity, but what I came to the conclusion is just these big companies are not moving quickly enough, and they're not risk-averse enough to take big bets on new distribution channels, for example, or new accelerated underwriting techniques. I think they're getting there, but it's going to take a while. Where I think a lot of the innovation will come in this industry is through new kind of startups who are tackling it just from the ground up. It made sense to start a company in this space because there's so many pain points.
There is a big difference between seeing those gaps and also taking that plunge into the entrepreneurial lifestyle. And that is something that not everybody is willing to do. And Can you talk about this and talk about your life as an entrepreneur? Did you always have that desire? Is it just something that you got inspired into throughout your life? How did you end up doing this?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's definitely not something I necessarily was pursuing since graduating or even earlier, which I know is the case with some entrepreneurs. But what I came to observe throughout my career and working with big companies is that one thing I did want from my career was working for an organization that was focused on growth. Because I think that's where you learn so much because you're trying to move quickly and you're trying to get new customers, and to do that you need to find kind of innovative and ideas that haven't been done before. And then when my co-founder kind of came to me with this idea and said, you know what, the Canadian market is behind. We've seen some of this innovation happening in other markets. This is the time to do it, and I think there's a big gap in kind of how slow the industry is moving to meet some of these new customer expectations, and there's probably a place for us to play a big role here. I jumped on it.
PolicyMe recently raised $3.3 million in funding just a couple of months ago in March. What are some of the biggest things you've learned from working with investors, raising money for a growth startup such as PolicyMe?
Few learnings. It definitely is not easy, I would say. I'm not sure we went into it naive about it, but typically you're just used to seeing headlines of this company raised this much money, and it feels like everyone is getting money without doing a lot of hard work. And I wouldn't say that's the case at all. So definitely be prepared to invest a lot of your time into doing this. In our case, we had my co-founder Andrew and our CEO pretty much invest his almost full-time capacity for about 4 months to get us through this raise. Starting from initial conversations to investors through to much more kind of extensive conversations with some who wanted to participate in kind of second and third conversations, through a due diligence cycle where they want to look at kind of all of your metrics and data in a lot of detail, through to actually getting all the legal paperwork in place in order to close the round. So that is like a significant amount of time, and it doesn't happen without a lot of hard work and a lot of kind of support from your co-founders as well, who are now kind of down a person in the company and at the same time where it's very important to maintain like strong growth. Because investors will be looking at that month over month if the process drags on for quite some time. So it's definitely a team effort, and it's something that you should be prepared to like invest a lot of time in. And then I think that's the first. The second is try and narrow down your list earlier versus just going through the like spray and pray process. It's not cold emails have a much kind of lower chance of being responded to than a warm intro from someone that you know. So definitely spend time looking at your network, understand what connections they have with investors, and try and get them to kind of open that door for you. Don't get too discouraged. There's a lot of ups and downs through the process. A lot of no's when you think you got pretty far with them, or that they were really sold in a meeting, that can make you feel like, oh man, this is never going to close. But one day it'll happen and you'll find the right partner, and it'll be worth all the work that you put into it.
And when you first got the news that it's going through and it's happening, what are those first feelings? Like, is it excitement and motivation, or is it pressure because now you have to really, get to work?
Yeah.
More eyes on you? What are those first feelings that you get when you go through a funding round?
I think for us it was a bit of relief. Just because those last couple of weeks, especially through the due diligence process, they start asking really specifics, and every time you have to hand over a piece of data where you're like not convinced it's the best KPI out there, that you could have done better, you just like worry that it's gonna make you lose the deal, or kind of like end the conversation. So there's a lot of that anxiety in those final weeks where they're really digging in deep into kind of your operations and your data and stuff like that. So that part is nerve-wracking. So day one, you're just like, wow, can't believe it's actually over. And then after that, a lot of excitement. I wouldn't say our investors have put on this feeling of like extreme pressure or anything like that. They are kind of winning alongside of us and providing a lot of good feedback along the way. You got to remember that they do this as a profession, so they've seen highs and lows from all their portfolio companies, so I'm sure they're used to it, and it's always good to be like very transparent with them along the whole way, so they're bought in to kind of some of the issues that you're facing and can help you solve them versus trying to hide those issues from them.
Laura, thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your insights about the insurance industry and your company, PolicyMe. I want to really thank you on behalf of myself and our company, Smarter Loans, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Vlad. It was a pleasure.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Smarter Loans YouTube channel for more videos that will help you make smarter financial decisions.